Hello, this is Dr. Michael Greger coming to you live from my treadmill to answer all your questions. We are but 5 days away from my cookbook, my publication of my first and only, so far, cookbook, the How Not to Die cookbook, coming out on December 5th. You can pre-order it now. It is so gorgeous. So pretty, and so upside down, that you may want to have a couple copies in case one of them gets dirty or something, or you want to share them with any friends or family you want to have around for a long time. Makes a great gift. And of course, I'm just saying this because I want you, your friends and family, to be healthy, because all the proceeds I receive from all the sales of my books and DVD speaking engagements all goes to charity, of course. I just want you to have some more tools to incorporate the healthiest of foods into your diet. Every recipe, 100% green light ingredients, meaning whole plant food ingredients. No added salt, sugar, fat, oil, nothing like that. Just healthy stuff. The healthiest ingredients try to fit in the most of the daily dozen foods into your life. And that's a free app, Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen. You can check out and enjoy on iPhone and Android. And speaking of donating to charity, we are coming into December now, which is the one time of the year where I ask for donations to be made to the 501c3 nonprofit NutritionFacts.org. So you make a tax-deductible end-of-year donation to get this life-changing, life-saving information to as many hands as possible. Spread evidence-based nutrition worldwide. So would appreciate your support. Even if 1,000 people kicks in a few bucks, will be totally says kind of the Wikipedia model. Everything's free, but if you appreciate it, even giving $1 would help. All right, let's get to your questions. Nice thing about YouTube is questions are, you can kind of line up your questions in advance. First one comes from T. Gifford. Does a systolic murmur, systolic heart murmur, have anything to do with low diastolic blood pressure? If it's a late systolic murmur, it might be like mitral valve prolapse, and anything that kind of decreases filling the left ventricle could, it wouldn't really make it would prolong the murmur, not really cause it. Anyway, any kind of murmur you have, talk to your doctor, make sure it's nothing serious, because it could point to some valvular problem, which in worst cases has to be treated with surgery. Ann V asks, muscular dystrophy in children, any recommendations? That's something I've not looked into in terms of diet. If you want to go to PubMed.gov, the database of the National Library of Medicine, largest medical database in the world, and type in muscular dystrophy and diet and see if anything pops up. If it does, send it my way, and I'd be happy to look into it. If anything useful, interesting, groundbreaking, practical, I'll do a video about it. Leanne A asks, are any foods not safe to eat raw other than stuff like kidney beans? All right, obviously. Now, when they say raw kidney beans, you need kidney beans out of a can because they're cooked. I'm talking about dried kidney beans, which you say, well, that's too hard to eat. Well, you could soak them and still they'd be raw, and you could eat them and you get very sick. So don't do that. Any stuff not to eat raw? Alfalfa sprouts. Do not eat alfalfa sprouts raw. I guess you cook them. That's kind of gross. In fact, just because of food safety concerns. Because alfalfa, if you look at the microscopy, it has all these little nooks and crannies where bacteria like salmonella like to hide. And then when you put in nice, moist, warm growing conditions to make the sprouts, the little bugs grow, and so you could be producing a little salmonella farm on your kitchen counter and hurt yourself. Thankfully, the problem is not the same with broccoli sprouts or lentil sprouts, and so you can sprout those safely. All right, and I've got videos on all those. You can check those out if you're interested. Luke asks, is there any link between vaccines and autism? Only in the minds of conspiracy theorists. That has been the The MMR vaccine autism purported link, that infamous paper in the Lancet, has since been retracted. In fact, retracted with a vengeance. In fact, the guy who wrote the paper, what was it, Wakefield, got his medical license pulled because of not only kind of accusations of kind of fraudulent data, but had was colluding with lawyers to make money off the whole thing. I don't know, ugly scene, but no relationship. And in fact, even when said, is that the video? That was it. My last video, the current video I have on canker sores. The last video I did on autism. Oh, if it's not that one, it's one coming up. Where I talk about the mercury-containing preservative thimerosal and autism, and still no link. Anyway, not much a problem anymore because there's thimerosal has been pulled from pediatric vaccines. Okay, Resilient H asks, getting dehydrated from caffeinated beverages, does that mean poor kidney function? So you shouldn't be getting dehydration. Well, I mean, so like something like tea. Tea does have caffeine. Caffeine is a diuretic. But the liquid, the added water you get drinking tea more than makes up for the added fluid you lose. So tea is actually not dehydrating. And so if it does dehydrate you, does it mean you have poor kidney function? I guess that's the question. If you're getting dehydrated, drinking enough water, then something may be going on, and I get it checked out. I don't know how you are necessarily measuring whether you're dehydrated or not. I actually do have a tip on how to do that. What was it? I've got a video about it. You chug down like 3 cups of water or something, and then if you don't pee a certain amount of water within a certain amount of hours, something, then it's a diagnosis. Anyway, gotta check it out on the video. That's why I do the video, so I can brain dump all this research out of my head onto the internet, and then move on to the next big research project. All right, opinion. So Joe Up Activewear asks, opinion on ashwagandha tea. Not something I've looked into. If you type in ashwagandha into PubMed and anything pops up that's interesting, let me know. Maple Flavor asks, what's my top 3 legumes that I enjoy the taste of? Oh, well, that's kind of I don't know if that's useful to anybody, but what legumes do I love? Lentils, chickpeas, and gigantes. Have you ever seen these? Oh, it's this Greek dish where these massive beans. When I talk about massive beans, so they're big white kidney beans, I think, eventually. So nutritionally, they're probably not the best because much of the nutrition is actually found in the outer coat. And so the surface area to volume ratio is totally off when you got something big. So smaller beans are better. But, oh, my God, they're so delicious. In fact, yeah. Oh, wow. All right. Check it out if you haven't tried it. It's actually worth, because they got to cook forever because they're monstrous, but it's worth the time. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Ooh, now I'm getting hungry. Okay. The Healthy Ingredient asks, hi, have you found any evidence on how eating seeds and nuts is related to cyst formation? Oh, like PCOS. Polycystic ovary syndrome and eating nuts and seeds. Never heard of such a thing. Is it a myth? Look up PubMed and find out. I've never heard of it, and I've done searches for PCOS and nutrition. So unless it's something that just came out, and I've done videos on PCOS and diet, never run across that to my knowledge. Luke Harrison, should people get flu shots every year according to the Centers for Disease Control? The answer is yes. Resilient H is back asking for brain function. All my providers are telling me to take fish oil. Then there's sources where I can get the same benefits without the wish. What benefit? Oh, for brain function. Okay. For brain function, provide for yeah, well, you can get it where the fish are getting it from, which is algae. So you can get microalgae based DHA EPA, you can get the benefits without the risk of the pollutants that build up the food supply, build up the food chain, the aquatic food chain. TJA asks, please mention some vegan protein foods. Anyone who doesn't know how to get protein on a plant-based diet doesn't know beans. Beans, split peas, chickpeas, lentils, legumes are the plant protein superstars. Include them every day. They are one of my daily dozen for a reason. All right. Okay. The holistic in me says they were diagnosed with autoimmune hepatitis. Does whole plant food sources of protein and fat need to be restricted for liver diseases? Less than 10% of calories from protein and fat is what they say. Who are they? I've never heard of that dietary recommendation for autoimmune hepatitis. I mean, certainly your liver is involved in protein metabolism, but when you switch people with liver failure from animal source protein to plant-based protein, and I have a video about this. This was decades old now. You can actually decrease the level of toxin circulating in the blood that would otherwise be toxified. Eating meat without a fully functional liver to detoxify your blood. And so, if your doctor says eat less than 10% calories from protein and fat, say, please, doctor, tell me where you found that. I would love to share that with my good friend, Dr. Michael Greger, because he wants to do a video about it. Maple Flavor is back and says, do I take algae oil every day? I do follow my recommendations to take 250 milligrams of a long chain of microalgae or yeast-based long chain omega-3s every day. And yes, I do. And I also make sure you get my vitamin B12 and vitamin D because I don't get a lot of sunshine because I don't get out much because I'm inside making videos for you. Okay. Cassandra Gartland says, I've been plant-based for 6 months trying to heal my hypothyroid. Is this possible? I don't want to take thyroid medication the rest of my life. Other steps I can be taking. Well, it depends what the hypothyroidism is from. If you have an underactive thyroid gland because you're iodine deficient, then that can be easily cured by taking a iodine. If, however, it's an autoimmune thyroiditis and your thyroid is scarred up, one would expect you will need to take thyroid replacement hormones for the rest of your life. And if it makes you feel any better, it's not really thyroid medication, right? You're taking the exact thyroid hormone that your thyroid would normally make and just bring your levels up to where it would be otherwise. And so it's not like you're taking some pharmaceutical that's some new synthesized molecule or something. You're just bringing your thyroid hormone levels up to where they should be had your thyroid not been all scarred up. Okay, Gonti Murti asks, best way to reverse atherosclerosis. I have both the carotids blocked and any suggestions. Oh, okay, lots of questions. The best way to reverse atherosclerosis is a whole food plant-based diet, as shown by Pritikin, Nornish, and Esselstyn. Got a lot of videos about that. And so Gonti says that Gonti's eating vegan, but of course vegan doesn't mean healthy. Vegan can be Coca-Cola and potato chips and, God knows what. So I encourage you to center your diet around whole plant foods. And also, of course, want to know what your cholesterol is doing and all sorts of other things. And suggestions for getting fat-soluble antioxidants. Yes, you eat lots of nuts and seeds to facilitate the absorption of the carotenoid phytonutrients found in greens. All right, what are maple flavors? What's my top 3 easiest meals? Easiest snacks, something like an apple, a banana, a piece of fruit. About as easy as it can. It comes pre-packaged in edible packaging. You just eat it. Can't be more convenient than that. Anyone who says, oh, I'd love to eat healthy, but it's just not convenient, has never met an apple, right? Okay, but meals. What's an easiest meal? Well, I mean, you could boil some whole wheat pasta, right? Takes 10 minutes, and throw in a bag of frozen greens, and a drained can of beans, and you're done, right? Oh, and tomato sauce, right? And a thing of tomato sauce. And then you mix it all up. So you got greens, beans, tomato sauce. Oh, and then spices. Just add like a Italian seasoning spice mix. Boom, meal is done. You got your beans, you got your greens, you got whole grains. Good. That's an easy meal. Another easy meal. Okay. How about we take some yellow corn tortillas, right? Sprouted might even be better. You take them out. You can get them frozen, so you can always have them handy. And you put them in the toaster oven, and you very, very lightly toast them. And you take them out, and then you put some fat-free, refried beans from a can on them, or you might as well heat it up first. You heat it up. You add some diced onion, pour in some salsa. If you have avocado or anything, and put it on there, and then you have like a little tortilla thingy. That's super easy. What's another good, super easy one? For breakfast, you can make my cherry chocolate oatmeal, where you take, you make some steel cut oats, just because they're yummy and nice and chewy, and then you add a drained can of tart cherries, just tart cherries and water, and some cocoa powder, some date syrup or something, and you have this like warm chocolate, but it's like you're eating chocolate covered cherries for breakfast. Super yummy, delicious. For a bonus, add some fresh mint leaves that you're growing on your windowsill right now because you care about your health, right? Okay. Patricia Pauletti asks, I've heard for years that that sugar promotes cancer. Is that true? Got a whole series of videos coming out about that. Short answer is no. So basically, the whole thought is, well, cancer eats sugar. So does all our cells. It's like saying Hitler breathed air, so you shouldn't breathe air. What? Yeah, but normal, non-villainous people also breathe air. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Anyway, not saying sugar's good for you. I think we should cut out all added sugars from the diet. Okay, Maple Flavor is back. Saying, do I use a water distiller? No. Water distiller seems to me a waste of energy. Resilient H asks, where can we find information on a healthy level of fitness at different ages? What we should be able to do? Oh, that's interesting. Like, how many push-ups should we be able to do at age 70 or whatever? I've never run across anything like that. If anyone has any suggestions for a resilient age, please write them in the comments. Rekatanko asks, what are key supplements for mental illness? Most important thing is a healthy diet, period, and exercise actually can improve mood if we're talking about depression. Supplements. I'm trying to think if I have, don't I have stuff on saffron? Let me see, saffron, lavender. You just got to type in mental illness, whatever particular mental illness you're interested in. NutritionFacts.org will pull up all the foods. Now, I encourage you to just make things with, make paella with your saffron, but I'm sure you could take it in capsules as a supplement if you really wanted to. Rebecca asks, should a Crohn's patient take probiotics and a multivitamin? Crohn's patients should eat healthfully. I have not reviewed the probiotics Crohn's literature in a while, but I think if something really phenomenal had popped up, I would have heard about it. If you're a Crohn's patient that has much of your intestine removed, and you might run into vitamin absorption issues, but that'd be something you talk to your physician about in terms of what parts of your intestinal tract have been removed, and then you can talk about what particular nutrient deficiencies you might run into. Certainly see a lot of problem with that with people getting these kind of gastric bypass operations running into serious nutrient deficiencies. But if you have your entire gut, then you should be able to get all your nutrients from the produce aisle, with the exception of vitamin B12 and vitamin D. All right, Jesse Bertick. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing everybody's names. Says, I always put my questions on YouTube every month in advance and they never show up. Well, it just did. And so if this was a question, instead of saying that, I would have answered it. Anyway, Leanne A. asks, I came across something called alkaloid buildup. And it being important to rotate your greens. That just sounds like crazy talk to me. Sounds like there's someone on the internet trying to get clicks by confusing people. Maple Flavor says, should I trust the added vitamins, B12, etc. In my daily great value Bran Flakes? Can you rely on them as it being really there? Like if it says they have enough B12, should you trust your Bran Flake manufacturer? Well, ideally, we probably shouldn't be eating Bran Flake. Presumably, most cold cereals, with very few exceptions, are pretty bad for you. They have a lot of added sugar, added salt. There's a few exceptions, like Uncle Sam's cereal. Basically has I think 2 ingredients, right? Rolled whole wheat berries and flax seeds. But anything processed like that, it's just not a very healthy food. But in terms of does it actually have the vitamins that it says, probably. Although vitamin B12 is so critically important for people eating plant-based diets, I wouldn't necessarily rely on their word for it. Adam A. wants to play asks, any videos about the benefits of being in nature? Oh, cool. Japanese forest bathing. I had never heard about that. I don't even know how I ran across it. Probably because I put in, maybe if I put in green leafy vegetables or something, and it caught the word green on PubMed. And anyway, there's this very interesting body of literature about the purported health benefits of being in nature. Now, of course, you can imagine all the co-founders. Who's in nature? People that actually have to kind of walk into nature. So there's exercise, then there's fresh air, there's sunshine. So is being in nature actually good for you beyond just all those other things? Like if you walked on a treadmill and had fresh air and sunshine, would it be the same as being surrounded by forest? So they do these studies where they put people in front of a TV screen and they show you a forest, show you lots of green, but you're actually not in a forest. Maybe there's some pine needle compounds in the air that are beneficial. Anyway, you can imagine how difficult those kind of studies are, but there have been a couple well-designed studies. I'm actually going to do a series of videos on that very topic. Stay tuned. Rebecca Naviera asks, when you have your appendix taken out, should you change your diet at all? You should vastly improve your diet, as appendicitis is kind of a consequence of eating a miserable Western low-fiber diet. Something like appendicitis is rare among populations centering their diets around whole plant food. So that's probably just you should take that as a sign that you haven't been eating enough fiber-containing foods, predominantly beans and whole grains. And so you should bump it up a notch. TJA, Cassandra G. Oh, I think TJ is responding to Cassandra. Maria V asks, am I concerned about studies showing antibiotics, hormones, etc. showing up in tap water from people flushing prescription medications? Actually, sometimes it's actually not just flushing. It just gets excreted unchanged in the urine. So they're just taking the medications and peeing the medication straight into the water supply. And so I actually have a video about that, talking about how much Prozac builds up in fish flesh because of all the stuff that's dumped into our waterways. So check out that video. You should probably search for Prozac. I think Prozac is one of the drugs. It should pop right up. Maybe Prozac and water. All right, Maria V asks, what do you drink for energy? To beat the afternoon slump, My colleagues all resort to caffeine, but I'm looking for a healthier alternative. Well, that slump may be caused by not eating particularly healthy in the first place. So the slump may be kind of this post-lunch crash because you're eating lots of refined junk that causes your blood sugar to go way up, then way down, such that you overshoot with insulin and your blood sugars can actually drop below fasting and cause symptoms. And obviously you need to make sure you're getting enough sleep, all these kind of, treat the cause. Why are you slumping in the first place? Rather than just trying to treat the symptoms by afterwards. But if you do everything right, you're still slumping, how about a nice healthy snack like a piece of fruit or some veggies dipped in hummus or something, and see if that doesn't perk you up without needing to medicate yourself. The holistic in me asks, what are your thoughts on full extract cannabis oil for celiac disease? Yeah. Many quote a study done back in 2013. You missed my cannabis webinar. I talked about that study. And so there was this, so it turns out cannabis may be detrimental for those with Crohn's disease. So at first we saw this tremendous symptomatic improvement, but it turns out they did worse long-term in terms of, I believe, surgery relapse rate. And then there's this cannabis hepatitis literature showing increased scarring in the liver, and sort of thinking, oh, maybe it's increased scarring in the intestine. That's why they didn't do so good. So it's actually it's actually a note of caution. So in my cannabis webinar, I talked about the pros and cons, what it's good for, what it's bad for, and actually Crohn's disease went into the potentially bad for category. And so if you want to check it out, all those cannabis, that whole webinar was basically, all the videos from the webinar, it was like a 3-hour webinar, got put on DVD. So if you go to drgregor.org, and click on DVDs or click on downloads, digital download. It's actually not on a physical DVD, but a digital download. You can download all 20-something cannabis videos. And I think the last one is actually the one on Crohn's. So if you want to skip straight to that one, you can do that. All right. Where were we? Maple Flavor says, I noticed most of my contributions go to charity. How do you make most of your living? Well, I used to have a day job, but but I left it end of last year. So now I'm a year now as research director for NutritionFacts.org. And so the first 5 years, I didn't take a penny from Nutrition Facts. And it was just kind of a hobby I did, nights and weekends, but I wanted to dedicate my life totally to it. So now I actually draw a salary from Nutrition Facts. So your donations to Nutrition Facts is actually in part buying me kale. So you should know that. But yeah, so now I'm actually an employee of Nutrition Facts. Leanne asked, could you give my dad Stuart happy birthday, Stuart. That's the shout out from your darling daughter, Leanne. The holistic in me asked, oh yeah, hepatitis, we did that one. Okay. Maple Flavor, what are my top three favorite fruits? Now, asking me what my favorite are and what's the healthiest may not necessarily be the same. But if you're really just curious what my favorite fruits are, oh my God, there's so many. Had a pomegranate this morning. 'Tis pomegranate season. I love pomegranate season. I love mangoes, but my favorite fruit, pawpaws, the largest native fruit in North America. You can buy them for like 1 week, but boy, that's a very good week in my life. Maple Flavor, do I agree with the bell curve? I presume they're talking about a book. We talk about like racial IQ levels, things like that. I have not read the book and I'm not familiar with the thesis. Gordo asked, Gordo is talking to somebody else on the chat. Marie asks, is it safe to consume monk fruit sweetener? I've got a video on monk-free sweetener coming up. Somebody asked about that before, and so I scripted, I think, just one video on monk fruit. And my call is coming in because it's 1:30. I will leave you in suspense. Have a wonderful day, everyone. I have an interview coming in. Bye.